Hello and welcome to the webinar today. I do want to let everybody know that we have Dr. Barrie Tan with us. My name is Derek Engler. I'm with AC Grace Company, and we have partnered together with American River Nutrition for this content-rich webinar today, and we are excited that you've joined us. Looks like we do have a great turnout. I want to give you some of the basics as far as how the webinar works and give a little introduction of not only the topic today, but that we're very honored to have Dr. Barrie Tan, and a little background on just how far back that relationship goes between Dr. Tan and even back to the founder of our company, Roy Erickson. So thank you again for joining us for this webinar today. We will respect everybody's time and try to finish before the top of the hour. And basically the thought today is that we will have a Q&A session towards the end, about a 10-minute Q&A, and you can use your question and answer feature here in the webinar settings to let us know what your questions are. We'll pick a number of those and go through those and have Dr. Tan give some feedback on your questions. AC Grace has been a provider of all natural supplements since 1962. And our partnership and relationship with Dr. Barrie Tan goes back nearly a decade and a half. But he did, even before that, have a relationship with the founder of our company, Roy Erickson, back years before that. And so it's exciting to see a leader in the vitamin E field like Dr. Barrie Tan and a company like AC Grace that has been a supplier of Delta Gold Tocotrienols for a while now, come together to provide you this exciting webinar. So with that, I want to say we're very honored to introduce Dr. Barrie Tan, and we look forward to you participating in today's webinar. Dr. Tan.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you for all of you who could come to attend this AC Grace webinar. As I spoke with Derek a tad earlier, that in the past, AC Grace responds to me with many different talks in time, in person, and even though today we are in person but not physically, so this will be the first time we're doing this remotely. Glad to do this. Some of you may have heard me spoke on Tocotrienol before, or vitamin E before, but now we have a few new bends and twists to this. Sentence or two about my background. I was a University of Massachusetts professor in chemistry, food science and nutrition for some 10-12 years, and had been working with Tocotrienol, vitamin E in general, lipid nutrient in particular, even bigger group, even longer. But with vitamin E, at least more than 30 years, and with lipid soluble material, probably 35, approaching 40 years, particularly with omega-3, CoQ10. You'll probably hear me speak on that in time to come. So that's pretty much my background. It wasn't in the last 5, 10, or even 20 years, been longer than that. So hopefully I will be able to cover and do justice to the claim of this title on Annatto Tocotrienol. This is by virtue of background, that the material I present, to the best of my knowledge, I got from published study. I'm not a health professional myself. I don't treat, mitigate, or patients like that, but I bring to study what I could. Some of them we funded study, and other studies we did not fund. Probably 3/4 of the studies we did not fund, 1/4 of the study we did fund. And most of them is disproportionately put on animal study and human study. This is the roadmap or table of content, some background, probably the first 3 dots, first 4 dots, I'll cover it relatively quickly. And then I usually go straight to the clinical study. Because of an unusual situation, I will go straight talk about the emerging uses before I go to clinical study. But just for the audience, before maybe this is still okay. In the first 100 years since the discovery of vitamin E in 1922, so in 2 years will be 100 years, the first 70 years, most of the studies were done on tocopherol. The last 30, 40 years were largely done on tocotrienol, and much of the tocopherol study did not quite pan out the way the clinical trials intended, and then the tocotrienol study took off. In part, this taking off is also because the discovery of tocotrienol came much later, some 40, 50 years after tocopherol, and thereby the research came later. If you look at this study, if you look at this chart, brother, you will see that most of the studies on cancer, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes, and what are these? These are chronic conditions. Now you will hear me enunciating the chronic condition. In the first half of the 20th century, we were nailing down pathogenic condition. You remember the Spanish flu, 1918? And then we have antibiotic to kill bacteria, pathogenic era. So in the second half of 20th century, we thought we have a handle. We really nailed the bug down. So then we get into an era, the second half of 20th century, where we talk about chronic condition. Heart disease, remember the famous Framingham, Massachusetts study? There we found high cholesterol, no good, a lot of red meat, no good, stuff like that. And obesity, no good, diabetes came into it. See, all these are chronic conditions. So we call the second half of the 20th century the chronic era. Into the 21st century to continue. So much of my talk is based on that. Who would have guessed? At the beginning of the 21st century, we are entering a pandemic era. At the most we can guess would be epidemic. Pandemic is a different term. That means that it will influence many countries all over the world. Epidemic will be one country. Actually, many of us did not hear. The SARS coronavirus first went after Asia, not China. In Southeast Asia in 2003, most people here didn't pick it up, and it just died there. Contained, died there, and that is called SARS/CoV. They didn't put 1 because now we have SARS-CoV-2. Then sometimes people call it SARS-CoV-1. But so that's correct. This COVID-19 is the name of the disease because it started in 2019. The SARS-CoV-2 is the name of the virus. This virus is different from the one in 2002, but they are part of the coronavirus family. So we are entering in that stage. Because of that, I'm going to put more time, up the time to talk about the emerging part. So now a little bit on the background. On the left side, you see 4-tocopherol. Right side, you see 4-tocotrienol. The difference then, in the tocotrienol, you see the tail. It's got the 3 double bonds. So 1, 2, 3. So the tail of a tocotrienol is unsaturated. The tail of a tocopherol is saturated. See, it's a straight hydrocarbon. This is unsaturated. Otherwise, a ring system in green here and white here in tocopherol, exactly the same. And then the 4 Greek letters, alpha, beta, delta, gamma. So if you look in the literature, you just look, doesn't have to be, you have to type American River or AC Grace, just look in the literature and go to PubMed. You will find the 2 in purple color, delta and gamma tocotrienol. These are the 2 best indicated for mitigating diseases, hands down. You can just look and you'll find. Now, you notice that I say these 2, you will know immediately why I say these 2 when I show you what the composition found in Annatto will be. So anyway, this is just a very simple snapshot of what tocopherol, tocotrienol, the 8 distinct isomers of tocotrienol. My little background, I did it in the 80, 90, 2000, 10 years apart. First, I was working on palm tocotrienol many moons ago when I went to visit a palm plantation in Malaysia. And an interesting note, my wife picked up this picture and she took, at the time she was my girlfriend, not wife. And we stopped by a plant here. Actually, it was the Annatto plant. I was holding a Coke here. I hide the Coke that I drank. So I was standing here. I thought that the plant was pretty. So I took a picture. Little did I know, I was 1 foot from the discovery 20, 30 years after. I just thought it was that. So that was 80. I was in Asia because of palm tocotrienol. Then in the 1990s, I went to visit the Prince of Thailand, and then we work on rice, Tocotrienol. Rice was sacred to them, and I have a couple of years stint in that. And then come 2000, I actually went to Peru to look for lutein. See this giant marigold lutein? If you look at the size, luckily I put my palm so it show you the size of the marigold. This is not our garden variety size marigold we have in the garden. These are like 3 to 5 times the size. The petal of this marigold is where they extract the lutein, good for macular degeneration of the eye. That was what I went there to do. But about 30 feet away from me, I saw the Annatto tree, this Annatto tree here. And I thought, wow, that's very curious. When the plant open, you see all these wonderful things. And then those color is keratin, just like this lutein. So they're very unstable. I'm just curious what is protecting it. Little did I guess that was tocotrienol. I stumbled on it, discovered it. That was 1998, 99, I believe, sometime during then. And because of that, I then get arrested. My research get arrested. But before I go to the next slide, so in the year 2010, 10 years ago, I spent my concerted amount of time trying to figure out how to produce this in the United States, conduct clinical trial, and source for the best Annatto I can find. I said that I would show you what the Annatto look like. This is what the Annatto look like. If you run a chromatogram, we call it HPLC, you only find 2 peaks. Gamma tocotrienol about 10% of the time, delta tocotrienol here about 90% of the time. If they were to be tocopherols, it will show in 2 to 4 minutes here where they would come out. If the other tocotrienol, it will show up here or here, somewhere here. But we never saw it. We only saw 2 peaks of the 8 possible vitamin E, gamma tocotrienol 10%, delta tocotrienol 10%. So if you have the 8 isomers and 2 of them work the best is delta and gamma, and we have only delta and gamma, in other words, if anything would mitigate disease, then this is probably going to be it. If it weren't, then nothing else is going to make it happen. So now, since my stint is with rice, palm, and annatto, if you look at these 3, the maroon color is just delta and gamma tocotrienol, what I call most active here. The less active have alpha and beta tocotrienol. The teal color is a tocopherol. That's inactive or antagonistic. So palm and rice contain 25 to 50%. So about 1/4 to 1/2 of rice and palm tocotrienol contain tocopherol. So when you take it, then the tocopherol is with it. You can't separate it. With the tocotrienol, it's just it. There's no teal color to express tocopherol. This becomes important. I'll go to the next slide. This is my summary slide to say why people, even though they may be healthy, they should be taking tocotrienol. Think of it. We have 38 trillion cells in the body, and all the cells have a cell wall. And the cell wall have cell membrane, and the cell membrane has fat. And the cell membrane can be oxidized readily, and you have to have antioxidant that protect it. There are many things on earth that are antioxidant, but lipid antioxidant are characteristically controlled by vitamin E. Like I said here, greater than 90% of the time, this phospholipid, the cell membrane here, the antioxidant are vitamin E molecule, tocochromonol, mean tocopherol and tocotrienol combined. And less than 10% of the time, they're hydrocarbon carotenoid like beta-carotene and lycopene, hence fat have that yellowish color, like that. So therefore, the vitamin E typically are this kind. I focus on tocotrienol because when you have the cell wall here, the tocopherol move around the cell wall like my finger going this. Because the tail is longer, see? Tocopherol tail is longer, anchors deeply into the cell membrane. The tail of a tocotrienol is shorter. So it goes around the cell 50 times faster. So if you have oxygen radical coming in, because it spins 50 times faster, it can grab the oxygen radical and stop it from damaging the fat in here. That's it, my friend. So when you talk about antioxidant, I'm very clear. I'm looking for lipid antioxidant that protect the cell membrane, not the thousands of antioxidants out there that are good, but they are not there where I want it to be protected more. So once you get it, you can see why we should be taking. How much? 150. I'm jumping the gun a little bit. This is the only slide that I have that underscore if you were to take tocopherol like AC Grace have, to take it approximately 5-6 hours after you take tocotrienol. Why? Because alpha-tocopherol put brakes on the function of tocotrienol, and these are some examples. You want cholesterol to lower, triglyceride to lower. You want tocotrienol to work to lower this. You don't want tocopherol to compromise it. And if you take tocotrienol for cancer, angiogenesis, you want the tocopherol not to lower the ability of tocotrienol to do that. You also want the tocotrienol, when it's taken, it should be absorbed in the adipose tissue and stored there, not blocked from storing there or absorption. And so, and this, anyway, the first three cites it all. So if you take tocopherol, just take it 5-6 hours after taking tocotrienol, then there won't be the chance of blocking it, interfering with it. I did say that I would put the emerging aspect come earlier because of respiratory distress. It's obvious to see why we do that. I wanted to say earlier, but I didn't, but I'll say it now. As I go through it, you see beautiful picture like here, the picture of the Annatto, just to tell the audience, this Annatto tocotrienol truly and beautifully is from a plant. It is not synthetic. So I show pictures of it, the beautiful flower. You see the parts like that. Also throughout the slide, if I did animal study or human study, I will translate that study to the human dose, what the dosage are. So after you capture 3, 4, 5, 6, you get an idea what dosage you would have, although towards the end, I'll give you a summary of what the dosage ought to be, like that. So before I move on, because I won't come back to this, and this is an example, a picture of the Annatto. You see this? You see the Annatto there? You see the seed there, beautiful. There's no flash. And so to protect the color, which is carotenoid, the tocotrienol is right there. We clean it up and remove the color, and then we gave you the tocotrienol. It's as good as it will ever get. We are the only company, and I repeat, we are the only company in the United States making tocotrienol naturally in our own soil. And another slide that I have, this is truly from the Amazonia. I picked this picture up. You see that? This is an Amazonian tree frog. The frog is about the size of a penny or a dime. So this seed here is smaller or about the size of a grape seed. So you can see the frog is not too big. This is just to tell you only a tree frog can go into this, and this Amazonian tree frog comes. This is just to show you that this plant originally came from the Amazon, like that. So all that to say that. And one last picture, so I won't have to go back to this. This is the structure of tocotrienol. This one here is an antioxidant head, this one here. And then if you look at the tail, you can see the double bond. One double bond in the tail, 2 double bond, and the last double bond is where my hand can show here. See that? That's the last double bond. So there are 3 double bonds. That's the structure of tocotrienol. So sorry, I'm jumping there. So now I put this for obvious reason, because we are going to this hunkering down situation that we are all in. And the coronavirus particularly come after the lung. We did this study 2014 and 17. We did not do this study because of pathogenic concern, such as the corona, such as pneumonia. There are also bacteria that come after the lungs, so not just that, but like chlamydia pneumoniae. See, that's a bacteria. Tuberculosis bacteria, they also go after the lung, but this we're talking about the virus. So we did this study, and this study that we did is on the non-communicable disease. So we call this ARDS. The communicable disease, we say SARS. severe acute respiratory syndrome. And now we are studying this because in 2014 and 17, we study people that are not caused by any virus or bacteria. So we study asthma caused by dust mite, and COPD caused by cigarette smoke, and also cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic disease like that. But look at the phrase. We call this ARSD because we did not want to confuse the SARS. It is for the communicable disease. But ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't take rocket science. However they describe this, just read the SARS and ARSD. At the end of the day, they sound the same thing. Acute respiratory syndrome, acute respiratory distress, they are the same thing. It's the same thing in the sense that if it bothers your lung, then it bothers your lung. So, but we use a second one to study because there were no COVID-19 then. In the 1 week, I know this is a week ago, in the 1 week, COVID have slowly graduated from the past 1 month to the second killer so that probably today COVID have exceeded heart disease. But if you look at all the yellow thing beside COVID, look, COPD is after cancer. And if you look down, type 2 diabetes, flu, what is flu? Infirms the lung, chronic kidney disease, NAFLD, high blood pressure, pneumonitis, they're all connected to the lung, problematic, or connected to type 2 diabetes, problematic. So I particularly want to look at the lung and the metabolic syndrome because these are comorbidity, people said, to the lung problem. So now some quick take on inflammation because people use this kind of like overuse. Normal inflammation. Your immune system is supposed to respond to harmful stimuli. Sometimes a bug, sometimes a cigarette smoke, they just go after it. Usually when you have this, the response is acute, is innate, the magnitude is high, you have a quick fever, kill the bug, and then it quickly go down. This is normally what the problem is. With the COVID thing, it's not like this because it come in, so we massively have what we call cytokine storm. The white blood cell is recruited, namely the neutrophil. Boom! It went into the lung, into the alveolar sac where you breathe, and it just infiltrated like mad. The intention is good. It's supposed to kill the bug, but then it gets so much in, it actually blocked the ability of the lung to breathe. So that's why that patient needs a respirator. So the very intention, good intention of a white blood cell is actually making us unable to breathe. So because of that, we die of something related to COVID, not COVID itself. It's really sad. That is it. So those who use respirator, only 1 in 5 made it. So it's kind of like too little, too late. But so that's a normal one. Abnormal one is the one that we talk about, chronic inflammation. The magnitude is not high. It just go on, and the duration is long. This is when we use C-reactive protein to study. Although if you have pneumonia, the C-reactive protein shot up anyway. And then the host is harmed over a long period of time, chronic, you see, not because of a bug. And then to quench it, we talk about this, talk about C-reactive protein, COX-2, oxidized fat, a whole mess of this thing. We study many of these things, but usually we study this based on abnormal inflammation, not based on normal type inflammation, but I'll combine these two to the extent that I can. This is a cigarette smoke thing. I'm just going to do it fast so that this is a normal control. See, normal alveoli looks good. And this is exposed a lot of cigarette smoke. Look at it, thickened because of neutrophil infiltration here. And then on tocotrienol, much less. And prednisolone, the steroid drug, reduce it, but actually not as good as tocotrienol. You can see tocotrienol reduce it 50%, slightly better than steroid drug. Can you imagine that? This is an animal study, and this is acute 2 week. See, and you can read these two things faster than I can do. Much better than what steroid drug to reduce neutrophil infiltration. You see, much less. Normal, very high. Somewhat reduced by steroid, but not as good. So that's one. Then this is the chronic inflammation. The same. This is with tocotrienol, thinner. Without, thicker. With the steroid drug, better than control, but not as good as this. This last one is good. This is the actual alveolar sac of the breathing apparatus in your lung. See that? With tocotrienol, with the vehicle, here, the alveolar sac have enlarged. That means that they cannot contract. Cannot contract because there's too much of this neutrophil there. It can't contract. If it cannot contract, it can't breathe. Cannot release CO2, cannot take cannot take oxygen. They're drowning, you know, they're drowning. And then this one here, you have tocotrienol, you see, the alveolar sac is smaller. You want the smaller alveolar sac, smaller circle, larger surface area. Larger circle, smaller surface area. And then if you put a steroid drug, the circle is still large. So you can read those bottom, so I can leave you to read, so I won't have to reread it. So this is a summary of the COPD thing. How about I take 1 second for you to read, and then just think of the dose here. So this is about 570. So AC grades have 125. If you titrate the right dose, you'll be fine. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 of those doses. Will be just fine. We then study asthma. In the asthma thing, we are particularly looking for mucus hypersecretion. Again, the study author look about the airway thing. Saline means normal. Vehicle, you see, thick with gamma tocotrienol, thin, and then you put steroid drug, thicker, better than the one with dust mite, but still not as good as tocotrienol. And this is inflammation score. This one is more graphic. This is the vehicle, the mucus recruit to the alveolar sac, reduce. And actually in this case, I give it to steroid drug. It removes all the mucus. So you can see here, because it reduces slightly better than tocotrienol. So on average, tocotrienol work to prevent asthma and COPD. We are not advising people to stop taking steroid drugs. You gotta talk to your doctors about it. But in this case, only in this example, it removes mucus better by steroid drug. In all other things, the tocotrienol seem to do as good as or better than the steroid. This is very graphic. This talk about the ability of the lung in resistance. That means the lung can shrink back. And this distendability here, talk about the lung able to go out distending. It had to do both, you see. Then they are breathing, in other words. So if you look, those with asthma highest, those with tocotrienol approaching control. See that? For resistance. And on here, the beta is going up, the control is here, the tocotrienol near the control, furthest away with asthma. If you look at steroid, it trailed behind tocotrienol. See, steroid trailed behind tocotrienol. Just remember, beta is this direction, and in this case here, beta is that direction. Once you got it, you can see, and then the bottom 3 dots, you can read yourself. I would have spent more time, but I fear that I might not be able to cover all the other things. This one here, you can look at the references later yourself. It's nothing there hidden. That's why I'm doing this. I didn't do it intentionally just to do it fast to go over you. But so now if you read this, you pretty much can do that. Also, the amount is similar to the COPD thing, approaching 600 milligrams per day. In other words, if people have exposed to problem with the lung thing for other reason, at least this is promote lung health so that our lung will be protected for those reasons I just told you, to open the air sac, reduce the inflammation, reduce the mucus. There's nothing there not to like if I have lung problem. So now I'm done with the pathogenic condition. I'm going to go back to the chronic condition. So all the study now from here on is on the chronic condition, and I'll start with the cardiovascular and inflammation. First, we did preclinical study trying to find out on animal. So we look at these lipids here, and then these are the reason why we're looking at it. If you look, what goes down is desirable, and HDL you wanted to go up is desirable. So with this was done in rabbit. So we knew that the good dose in human being would be 135. So we got a working principle how much to use on clinical study like that. So then we started the study. This was the original, this is a clinical trial done in University of Missouri. So we gave people 125, 250, 500, 750. This is the one that AC Grace followed. That's why they did the 125. So the 250, they took 2. 500, they took 4. And 750, they took whatever, 6 or something like that to get the dosage amount. So when you did that, the professor was actually going to study lipid. And you can see at 250 milligram, it worked out to be the best. And these are the amount that they lower here. At the time, I begged them, can you please do inflammation? Because half of the time in their problem, and they inflame. So when he did, he studied C-reactive protein, oxidized fat, total antioxidant status. So when he did that, this is desirably going up. Oxidized fat, desirably we want to go down. And C-reactive protein measure inflammation, we're only going down. See? Now, this is a chronic study. If you want to flip back to the pathogenic one, it's fine. So if you do a pathogenic thing, your body will not be oxidized like that. Your body will have C-reactive protein inflammation drop. But I cannot go back, keep going back to the asthma and COPD thing. I want to stay with it. So the inflammation is reduced. See, it's reduced by 40%. I don't know what they're not to like. Interestingly, on inflammation reduction, 250 and 500 work almost equally. But for lipid reduction, 250 clearly is head and shoulder above 500. So now, on cholesterol and lipids in the body, it had to do with artery. Why? Because if the cholesterol is too high, they may clog the artery, like a plaque forming. So now we have 30,000 miles, about 6 times around the world. And then this bring the red blood cells, bring nutrients to all the cells, and then bring carbon dioxide and waste back to the lung to exhale, to the liver, and then become in the kidney to pee, and then to poop. Those things, you know. So this is what the red blood cell does to do those things. So therefore, you want the 30,000 miles of artery to be good. We don't know how to do study on artery. I don't know how. So we only have animal study, no clinical trial. So in the first one, we study inflammation marker, it dropped. The blue is the control. And then these are adhesion molecule. In other words, these are protein molecules, they stick onto the artery. If you stick onto the artery, it stays there. You don't want it to do that, because if you stick onto the artery, then plaque is going to form. So you don't want any Velcro effect. You want it to just flow like that. So adhesion molecule, as it indicates, you want it not to go up, so it inhibit. And then on proteolytic enzyme, if you have the plaque, you want the plaque to be inhibited. You don't want you want the plaque to be stable, stabilized plaque. And in order to have stabilized plaque, you don't want proteolytic enzyme. Just mean enzyme that dissolve the plaque and the plaque become unstable. You don't want that. So therefore, you want the proteolytic enzyme to be inhibited. Exactly is what it is here. And here, actually see the plaque with alpha-tocopherol did not reduce. With tocotrienol 24% at the aortic root. If you look at the entire aorta, 36% reduced by tocotrienol put in the feed, and the amount for this is about this, at this level for human consumption. Now I'm going to move to the metabolic syndrome, like that. These are the 5 things that are overlap with metabolic syndrome. So I'll give you the bottom line here so that, because my time may be a little bit more limited, think of the triglyceride drop, cholesterol drop, elevated waist circumference drop, fasting blood sugar drop. These are all drop, nothing they're not to like. The only one here, we do not consistently see this thing drop in human, but in animal study we did. So first, we did a healthy elderly. Most people never did healthy elderly. We did healthy elderly. In other words, they don't normally have problems. So when we did that, we studied this sort of parameters, and these are the reason why we study them. Everything go down except this goes up, which is desirable. This is done 4 weeks. We gave these people, we didn't know what worked, tocotrienol, quercetin, resveratrol, and then we decided, okay, 200 milligram, this thing works. So we have a working hypothesis how to give to people. By the way, we don't sell quercetin. I'm going to tell you now. Quercetin is definitely known to be antiviral. Just Google and figure it out yourself. But I'm not here to talk about quercetin. This is done about 6-7 years ago, like that. NAFLD. This is the 21st century liver disease. Why do I call this? Everybody is now talking about COVID. 80 to 100 million Americans currently has non-alcohol fatty liver disease. This is a problem. And this ain't going away with or without COVID, like that. And the complication, inflammation, fibrosis, this and that. So not good. And the liver is very intolerant to fat. Even at 5%, it's beginning to squat. And then at greater than 5%, they get NASH. More serious condition. Cirrhosis is even more serious, like that. I just save you time and not talk about the animal study and go straight to the clinical trial. So we have a 3-month study and a 6-month study. This is published. This is about to be published momentarily. Excuse me. We gave people 300 milligram 2 times a day. So they take 600 milligram a day. So it's about 4 to 5 capsules of AC Grace pill. So if you look, you can look at all of this yourself. You can see it faster. I'm just only covered the red one. The weight loss at 3 months, 6 months, they lose approximately 10, 17 pounds. Triglyceride here. There's nothing to sneeze at. We did not do this to have weight loss, but there's nothing to sneeze at. If you are overweight and NAFLD, that there is weight loss. Good thing. Triglyceride drop. Very difficult to lower the triglyceride, and it is time dependent. Look at that. And then liver enzyme, very difficult to do it, and also time dependent. This amount. By the way, both the 3 months and 6 months are taking 600 milligrams. C-reactive protein, 18, 24, time dependent, same. And then liver index, fatty liver index, same. And HOMA, too bad that we didn't do it for 3 months. We did it for 6 months. HOMA, IR just mean, you can just read yourself here, but the take-home word is insulin resistant. The insulin is becoming more functional. So if you look at that complicated equation, basically the insulin become more functional, sugar is in control, and therefore the HOMA IR drop 18%. Diabetologists, they love to see this. So I already covered that fast, but let you know, it definitely worked for people with NAFLD. This is a freebie. In the selection of that, we found that about 12 patients have infection of hepatitis C virus, liver. We did not recruit them, but the professor decided to give them Tocotrienol and see what happened anyway. So like that, and you can see all these statistics with the CDC. They give 500 milligrams, 6 weeks. What's down-regulated? Tum. What's up-regulated? Tum. So when I saw this work published, I was floored. I still don't know how Tocotrienol is antiviral. Now, keep in mind, not COVID antiviral. Don't overstate what I just said now. This is liver antiviral, but it did. So I just said, wow. So therefore, this Tocotrienol not only for NAFLD, metabolic syndrome, but it's also for hepatitis C. So in short, Tocotrienol is definitely a liver tonic if you want to have one big ginormous spray. And very soon we might see that Tocotrienol is also a lung tonic, but now liver tonic. So this is good news. So because of time, I have to move on to do this. So now I'm talking about cancer. You can download and read this on American Cancer Society. On the women, all those 5. We see animal study. We have lots of this, all on the men and women side. And we are proud to say we're able to cover all the 5, 6 things on the women's side. We are covering all the 5, 6 things on the men, except we did not cover prostate and did we not cover liver. I would love to do the liver thing, not yet, but on the women, we cover all the things listed here. And delta and gamma tocotrienol had unambiguous cancer role. This was the pancreatic cancer, the first one. See here, pancreatic cancer here and here. So this is done in University of Southern Florida. Look at it. You can read this finding here very fast yourself. It inhibits the cancer stem cell infusion, the tumor shrink, blah, 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 like that. The preferred composition by the study authors, delta and gamma tocotrienol, free of the other tocotrienol and free of tocopherol. This is exactly what the Annatto tocotrienol is. this thing fit exactly that. They didn't do this to fit the Annatto Tocotrienol. I'm just glad the Annatto Tocotrienol fit the composition that they consider important. So in their study, they start with, they call dose escalation 200 all the way to more than 3 grams. And they say up to greater than 3 grams, there's no reason to take that much. They're doing to see how high can you go to elicit a toxic effect. No toxic effect was elicited. And then when they see the cancer kill, as the lowest dose here, 200, would cause apoptosis in the cancer. I'll tell you how they found it. This is not an animal study. This is human tissue that they saw apoptosis in 200 milligrams, and they surmised that the active dose is 600 milligrams for pancreatic cancer, the deadliest of all cancer. These are the excised tumor from the patient. They can show apoptosis at 200 milligrams and stronger at 400 milligrams. So when they chart the curve, 400 to 800 is the best, and probably 600 is right in the middle. So they're probably going to get a National Cancer Institute to get a grant to study this. But still keep in mind, even as low as 200 milligrams, they saw apoptosis. So that's good, even the lowest dose. Even though not the most efficacious, though they still see death. Then they did this study. You see here, first they actually used tocotrienol to sensitize the only drug in pancreatic cancer, gemcitabine. So gemcitabine is this. At 4 months, 30% survive. At 5 months, all dead. When they add the combo, which is gray color, 90%, they're very happy. At 5 months, 20%. Good for me. They actually did a group of just the delta tocotrienol. Then at 4 months, 70%. Not as good as the combo, but look at 5 months, 40% survive. The combo, 20% survive. Voila. That means, what is this to say? That means that gemcitabine is very toxic and the combination increased survival. But hey, if the end survival is most important, just the delta tocotrienol is just fine. So, and then for the cancer stem cell, after you kill the cancer, 1% of the cancer cell is still raw. They still move around, and these are very recent study. And all of these cancer parts, they found that delta and gamma tocotrienol are the only vitamin E that kill cancer stem cell that still circulate about 1% after you kill the cancer. So another time we have to talk about this more, but for now, clearly delta and gamma are it. So this is anti-angiogenesis. It shrunk the tumor. Delta tocotrienol does it. Tocopherol didn't, like that. Let me talk about other clinical trials. Of all the published work, the breast cancer trial of tocotrienol did not work. 5 year long, and it contained 25 to 30% tocopherol. Probably is a reason because the tocopherol interfered with the tocotrienol function. Even for 5 years, nada. And then on the pancreatic cancer, it did work. That's a study I said before, 2 weeks. And then on the ovarian cancer, I'm going to discuss this, 2 years, and it did work to increase the survival. And we're waiting for these other lung, colorectal, and breast cancer. If you're interested in this study, you can go to clinicaltrials.gov and pull out those studies, but they're not yet published for most of them. And then they use 900 milligrams. So on the ovarian cancer thing, on overall survival and progression-free survival, essentially the survival double when they give them Avastin and delta tocotrienol. If they're just Avastin, the survival, that's the only drugs available to do that. I say delta tocotrienol. What I mean is the Annatto tocotrienol that we have as is, that AC Grace has. That's what I meant. And in the bottom here, you can read this yourself. And this is what the study author said. If you take a moment or two, you probably can read this so that I can move on. And the bone study. First, we did a lot of different bone study on animal, pretty much as they concluded the Annatto tocotrienol promote bone study. This is many years, 10 years, 12 years into this. Finally, we decided to zone in on this. Ovarytectomize, you take the ovary out of the female rat, and then it emulate post-menopause. And so for human, it would be for people who are 55 years or older. So we decided to do that study. When we did that study, we found out that estrogen here is an antioxidant because it's got a phenol thing. I superimpose tocotrienol to the estradiol. So I surmise that when the estrogen drop, the oxidative stress increase. And when that happened, the osteoblast, the bone building cell, they fall. And the bone breaking down, you want that to fall, it went up. So this too is a perfect storm to thin the bone. So we found out this is an animal study. I'm just going to jump on this other than you can clearly see what happened. Clearly see what happened if you put tocotrienol on the picture. And this is about 700 milligrams. So I go straight to the clinical trial. See, we give one group of women 300 milligrams a day, 600 milligrams a day. And the one that given 300 milligrams a day, the bone building, 100% increase or more. The one that break down the bone, 13% drop. Oxidative stress dropped by almost 50%. We are happy with it. And for the 6-month study, it did not do a whole lot better than the 300 milligrams. Sorry, in the 600 milligram study, it didn't do a whole lot better, maybe 20% better. So this one here, 300 milligram worked the best. If someone want to load up for 600 milligram for 2 months and go to 300 milligram, that's fine. This is for postmenopausal women, osteopenia. Okay, so this is a take-home message. So tocotrienol is the most potent source. It works to decrease lipid, inflammation, metabolic syndrome, fatty liver, and then also another, in addition, freebie, hepatitis C. I was surprised by that. Inhibit cancer. I show you some examples of those cancer. Start the tumor, and postmenopausal women osteopenia. By the way, the postmenopausal women penia, we decided to graduate the study to postmenopausal women obesity. The study is ongoing, and in your great state of Texas, in Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas. The study is ongoing. We don't know the study until next year. And of course, I spent a fair bit of time to talk about chronic respiratory distress, and this could have relevance to what the pathogenic thing is now that we're going through. And the last part here on recommended dosage. For a healthy person, 100 to 250 is fine. There's no magic. So don't say, must it be 150, 200? It depends on the size and weight of the person as well. And a mild chronic condition, 300 to 400. And if it's advanced chronic condition, 450 to 600. I believe that if you follow this, it's good enough. And then you can talk to your health professional. AC Grace could help you in this, but this is a general guideline. And my last slide here would be, if you want to have a copy of my book, I will show you this. It will look like this. You can download this free. If you want an autographed copy of it in writing, you send an email to me. We'll be glad to send you a copy. Otherwise, you can willing to do soft copy. You can download the soft copy, or say write down barrietan.com/book and put AC Grace so it comes from your listening to this broadcast, or simply email us. I think with that, I think I cover all. I'll pass it back to AC Grace. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me the opportunity to share this with you, an exciting news about tocotrienol. Thank you so much, Derek.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tan. And as we prepare for the Q&A, I just wanted to thank you so much for the great content that you provided us today. Honestly, it's no wonder that you're known as a trailblazer and really the foremost expert in vitamin E. So thank you for being with us today. I do see about 4 questions that we can work our way through. And so I'll bring those to you as well.
Okay.
The first one comes from Donna. She asked, in reference to today's presentation, what about inflammation in the brain? Would this also be true for the brain as in the lungs?
Wow. We have not directly studied inflammation in the brain. And I don't know from Donna what caused the inflammation in the brain, other than to say this. The tocotrienol does cross the blood-brain barrier into the brain as the brain needs them. And the brain is very high in fat. very high in DHA. That's why we take fish oil, because it's good for our brain. And DHA is very oxidizable. So tocotrienol is the best substance to be lipid antioxidant to protect the oxidation of this unsaturated fat. And because unsaturated fat causes inflammation, for that discussion, I think that tocotrienol should help to reduce inflammation in the brain.
Perfect. That is a good answer. And she did follow up with, how much would you take? A lot of people do have questions in terms of the dosage. Your perspective and suggestions there.
Mm-hmm. On the lipid thing, in the blood thing, I had a slide earlier on. 250 will reduce inflammation, 500 continue to reduce well. So it's somewhere between the range of 250 to 500 for the for containing the inflammation side.
Perfect, perfect. Another question that we have, Jan says great info, and that her friend actually has an annatto tree. What about just using the fresh, dried, or frozen seeds? Is your thoughts on that?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I respect very practical question. I sometimes use the annatto seed. You can go to a Hispanic store. If you bring me one of the two annatto seed, I want to show them. You can. I use it for cooking. You can go online YouTube like that. But if you use like about 2 tablespoons of the annatto seed and sip it in oil, the oil is almost look like tomato sauce color. So, and then that amount may provide you probably 5 grams, 5 to 10 milligrams of tocotrienol. So it won't be sufficient, and your entire dish will already look red. This would be an example. If you look closely, the annatto seed is actually beautiful like that. So I do use it, but not enough for even normal healthy thing at 150. Not that you cannot get the tocotrienol, but it will be insufficient.
Perfect. Perfect. We do have a few more questions coming in, and we'll try to get a few more answered and close out at the top of the hour. But for the time we have left, a couple of the other questions, Dr. Tan, are related to the idea of, one is related to breast cancer. Do you have additional references for breast cancer? Basically, potentially the contraindications for both types of vitamin E related to that.
Yeah, I do. If that lady, whoever, if you got a copy of this book, on the section that I cover breast cancer, I have lots of references in there. So you should be able to get to read there when you get to the book. And then after that, if you have further question, if you email me live@American, then I can answer you specifically. That would be a perfect place to start.
Perfect. That's great. One person did ask if they can get a copy of the slides, and we do have these as an on-demand follow-up, so people will be able to watch the webinar on demand. Those who have attended, those who couldn't quite make it today's session, we will be sending that out to those who have registered, as well as adding it later on to the AC Grace Company website as a resource for people, for those that weren't able to join us today. One or two more questions we have from Thomas. Do we have any information on vitamin E supplementation concurrent with intermittent fasting and prolonged fasting in the reversal of fatty liver? I know you talked about the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease being one of the main conditions in today's presentation. Question on that.
Yeah, not with intermittent fasting, Derek or whoever who asked the question. We have only encouraged people to reduce their intake of high-fat food. We didn't even regulate them to say that they must follow American Heart Association type 1 diet, just to regulate their food. So definitely, for sure, we did not do anything of intermittent fasting. We don't know in that direction. So we assume that their lifestyle stay comparable, not that they should continue to eat the way they want, but that's how we designed the study. And to see if tocotrienol in and of itself could do something better. I truly believe the reason tocotrienol work in the liver is because the liver is so stressed with fat and so highly inflamed. The tocotrienol there is actually like a fire hydrant, just putting out the flame. I believe it's like that. I know that doesn't sound so scientific, but the scientific study would be the one that you can, once you go to that slide, you look at the paper, or when you get a copy of this, the citation of the book, the citation of the published paper will be there, and you can see how the study author did the study.
That is very helpful. And as people are seeing the value of the answers that you were giving, the questions are flowing in. I have talked to you and your team that we can get those questions to you and have you follow up as well offline as we finish up here today. So we'll make sure, Dr. Tan, that you and your team get a copy of those questions, as well as people see the great answers they have started just flowing in. And that's why we want to do things like this. Again, we enjoy partnering with you, Dr. Tan, American River Nutrition. And so we look forward to a continued collaboration as we provide just to be a great resource for people. As we've learned today, Tocotrienol's role as 21st century vitamin E, that it's so relevant for a number of conditions such as COPD, the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cancer. It's relevant in conversations of COVID. And we have much respect for your research, Dr. Tan, and we've seen the benefits from so many sources of people that have used this in as their a part of their thinking, as a part of their game plan for such numerous chronic conditions. So thank you, Dr. Tan, for your time today.
Yeah, and as a parting word, yes, if you were to pass the questions to Derek, and then we will fill out, would love to answer that in writing like that to the extent that I know. And also this probably something, if there's so many questions, maybe in the future, AC Grace could have something, and then actually it make me more unnerved, but I'll tell you what I know. I'll have no presentation, just to have an hour of feeling out people question and answer. So if I can do that, I would love to do that. So, but I'll leave you to work with Kim how to design something. Then in that case, all your audience will get their question answered, you know, in real time. So like an interview of question and answer type thing. But anyway, be well, stay safe, and we all continue to do the different things that we are doing. And thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Tan.
Thank you.
We'll see everyone next time.